All right, how's it going out there, folks? Welcome back here to a Sunday, the end of the weekend. Well, we still have a little bit of the weekend left. It is about 12:39 p.m. California time. Sunday, December 29th, 2024 is the date. Latest activity here on the Earthquake 3D globe shows a little small microquake into Southern California. Well, actually, Nevada, it looks like. A little bit of movement popping up here across Northern California and Southern California overnight. We'll get to that here in just a minute. Want to cover space weather activity here real quick as we have a G3 storm watch in effect for tomorrow night. I was looking at this weather or this space weather model here, and it looks as though that recent, I believe it was the upper M flare that kicked off this massive CME in the Earth-directed view. Now, the Earth in the green, the sun in the yellow. That cloud here, that density cloud, is a pretty hefty shot of plasma that was erupted off the sun and is looks like it's headed decently towards the Earth. So we're looking at a pretty nice potential for auroras tomorrow night as a G3 class storm watch is in effect. Now, if we put this in motion here, I'll just show you guys the slow view that erupted there from the sun. Pretty neat to see. The majority of the bulk of it looks like it's just to the west here of the Earth-Sun plane, but we got a decent shot there from that fairly hefty plasma cloud that was produced from the sun there a day or so ago. Now, this is for tomorrow night. This is tonight. Not so much going in here in terms of the auroras, but we are looking at the auroras possibly really kicking up tomorrow night. That's going to be well, not technically not New Year's Eve. It's going to be on the day before New Year's Eve. KP index up around the 6 range. View line here forecasted down into maybe portions of Oregon, some of the northern tier states, maybe down into Nebraska area if you have a clear view of the northern horizon. And we've seen this a couple times throughout the year where we get these G3, G4 class storms. Nothing like what we've seen as a G5 class storm back in, when was that? Back in May? I can't remember the exact date, but I've seen the auroras twice here in Northern California, and that's pretty crazy to see down here outside of Chico. As years pass, I've never been able to see them, and up until this year, we've had a couple different pretty nice solar storm events. And tomorrow, not quite as dramatic as those previous storms, but it should be a decent shot here, covering a good portion of North America. And again, the view line could be down to Nebraska area across the Great Lakes, and of course into the Northeast here. So that's pending if the everything plays out as it should. It looks like it will, though, because it's a pretty hefty cloud, a plasma cloud that is headed towards the Earth direction. There it is again. KP index solar ham here is predicting the KP index up around a 7. That would be a G3 class storm. G2 on the other model I showed you guys, so they don't quite have it listed up here as a 7, but that is what they're showing. G3 class storm. We can actually check the official page here. Let's get off that. Let's see what these guys are forecasting. 24-hour observed maximums. So there's a G3 class storm predicted 12:31 UTC time. And really, we've had G5 storming conditions this year, and believe it or not, really nothing happened. The internet didn't go down. The power grids didn't go down. I think they overblow this a little bit in terms of some of these weather apps saying, for G3 and G4 storms, expect elevators to stop working and expect your car to have issues, and that doesn't happen. I think that's just overblowing it a little bit. We've seen a number of G5 storms here recently, and none of that happened. So we're not looking at any of that from this G3 storm. Now, if you're up in space, you got satellites up there, that could, stuff could happen up there, but there's fail-safe operations that are put into place across the satellites and communication systems up there that prevent any damage to the equipment. But G3 class storm tomorrow. It looks like it's going to be right about when's this time frame here? 07, I believe. Oops, did not mean to do that. 07. So that's Z time. So that's going to be tomorrow night, about 11 p.m. Pacific time here. So tomorrow night is the night to get out and check for the auroras. Been trying to get these Z times in my brain here because a lot of systems use that UTC time here, just a standard format for world time, and then you have to convert it to local time there. But it looks like 11 p.m. California time is when the brunt of it, the peak of it, but it comes in a little bit before that as well. So just got to get out there tomorrow night and see if we can see the auroras. I may be out here, maybe, if we have clear skies. Right now, the aurora is fairly minimal. We did have an X flare here yesterday, very low grade, an X 1.11 to be exact. But we are going up there. We're stair-stepping up in terms of the consistency of stronger flaring. In fact, if you look in the last 24 hours, we've been pretty much consistently sizzling with M flares and that one X flare here. So things they're crackling and popping on the sun, and that's the time to watch for some further X flare activity. Now here's a current look at the UV filter of the sun. Got one image or one sunspot over here popping off a little flare. Nothing big right now, but the number of the sunspots that have been on this side of the Earth-facing side of the sun has been quite numerous, and there's quite a few of these that are popping off different flares. This area here, more specifically, got to watch that. That did produce a long-duration M flare last night, which led up to the X flare event. So we got this one that's coming into view in terms of almost being directly lined up with the Earth-Sun plane and Earth, the center here of the sun. So we'll watch that. That's definitely going to be geo-effective here for the next couple days as it is in view. Complexity model, really can't tell too much on that because it's still the black and white model, the magnetogram here. Just a little bit difficult to see the complexity of these sunspots. I'm used to this, where you can see the individual colors and see if if you got a close proximity there of a bunch of different colors side to side, indicating complexity. This has been offline for over a month here, so they had some type of flooding event down at the Stanford University, which I find odd because there should be some fail-safe operations down there itself. So we got G3 storming conditions tomorrow. Elevated flare threat. We're at a 30% chance for an X flare right now. That's a pretty big deal, but it makes sense here as we got numerous sunspots and the complexity going on there with the crackling and sizzling of almost consistent M flare activity. So watch it. Things are getting quite hot on the solar flare department. All right, no auroras right now. Again, that aurora activity is going to come in tomorrow night. Watch for that. As far as earthquake activity goes, largest earthquake here in the last 24 hours. Let's go ahead and check this out. Looks like it's going to be a 4.9, so really nothing above 5.0. But man, are they getting a swarm down here across Ethiopia. That is a Great Valley Rift Zone here. This is separation of the continental rift. Eventually, hard to say if there's might be a sea out here eventually. But they've had a pretty decent amount of earthquake activity out here around a couple different volcanoes. If we look here on the satellite view, there's one right here. But it's more of a broader event specifically around this area. So just kind of watching that. Anything can happen here at any given time. I don't think it's a super volcano. Something could just pop through there. It's a rift zone, right? So you're spreading that crustal area pretty thin from the heated areas below. I don't think we have any GPS stations out there to monitor that. There might be. Let me see here. Oh, South America. It's not happening in South America. It's happening here across the rift boundary. So roughly about... Well, I think it's up around here, but the closest GPS stations are going to be away from this rift valley. That's offline from 2016. This is, a lot of older activity out here. Nothing really of noteworthy, valuable information. 1998? What in the world? 25, 26 years old. Wow, I can't believe 1998 is that long ago. So we'll continue to watch that. I don't have a lot to work with here in terms of the GPS stations here as far as any recent activity. We just got to watch and wait and see. But they're definitely getting some interesting activity out there, which could lead to volcanic activity around that Great Valley Rift Zone. And I think it's got about 17 earthquakes. I don't know. If I remember right, they had a number of earthquakes throughout the year here. Let me go back and search this real quick. I just want to do a quick glance and go back to last year and just specifically look at that area. See how many earthquakes they've had. We'll just cover right about here and then over. That should cover it. So 17 was the last 30 days. Yeah, there's been a number here throughout the year. If you look, the last swarming event was back in October, it looks like. October 16th, October 12th. A little bit there back in September. But that's, definitely seems to be kicking up there. Nothing big in terms of large-scale activity, earthquake activity. Largest looks to be a 5.2. But that's an interesting event. Definitely got to watch that. All right, let's get back to regular earthquake activity. Southern California down here. San Diego, off the coast here, San Diego. Another earthquake, 2.4. Within the last hour, this region seen a 2.7 yesterday, roughly in the same area. Look at the last 7 days here. It's been somewhat active out here off the coast along this area, which is the Pacific side of the plate boundary, which sits right here, the plate boundary. There's a little bit of pressurization going on here across a number of faults. I'm not for sure exactly which fault system this is occurring on. Could be the southern end here of that Coronado Bank Fault zone, which might extend a little bit further south here. 2.5 map and above. Let's see here. There's that 2.7 San Jacinto Fault Zone. One from yesterday, but we do have that one kicking up right now, just under the 2.5 threshold, so that's why it's not showing up on the other model. Somewhat active out here in Southern Cal, mainly across that typical zone here, the San Jacinto Fault Zone. Nothing across Los Angeles for now. Seismograph stations down there. This is that's probably that 2.4 that's coming in there about 10 minutes ago. Picked it up on the Barrett station right here, and also the China Lake station. So we got Barrett sitting around right here, the seismograph station reading that I just showed you, and then China Lake more up here. But it did pick up that 2.4 earthquake that just came in the last 15 minutes. So continue to keep an eye on that. No major swarming going on there across Southern California for now. Western Nevada is still staying seismically active in a couple different zones here. Nothing big, just a bunch of little ones. A lot of crustal quakes going on out here across Western Nevada. And I still think it's got to do with the pressure out here against the plate boundary, the San Andreas Fault. So got to watch that. The Bay Area, pretty quiet for now. A couple earthquakes down here on the creeping segment of the San Andreas Fault. Nothing big. Northern California, a handful of earthquakes up here, including some overnight, including a 3.7. This is back here off the normal zone that we've been watching. Let me see if they've even reviewed this earthquake. It has been reviewed, so that's a legit earthquake and a legit location and magnitude. But it's off of the our major area that we've been watching here recently, following that 7-pointer. That's on the Gorda Escarpment region. So things may kick up here following that type of activity here. Looks like 3 hours later we did see another 2.7 down further along that plate boundary. Very dynamic area out here. You got the northern branch here of the San Andreas Fault, the Pacific Plate, and the North Pacific and the Juan de Fuca Plate boundary here as a whole, unless you want to call that the Gorda Plate, the little small plate that's being subducted underneath this area here, the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone. Still got to watch that. Tremor activity has actually died off in the last couple days, but that doesn't mean that we're through with the potential out here yet. Still watching it. Quite dynamic earthquake activity happening. Further inland, not so much. We did have another earthquake here yesterday, 3.6, very shallow earthquake here, crustal quake across the Hayfork area. Washington and Oregon, nothing being reported here on the weekend because the USGS is out of the office. Earthquakes happen, but their reporting system, I don't know why they keep it like that. I really don't, but they turn it off. They turn off the smaller reporting of earthquakes out here, and that includes Yellowstone as well. Maybe not for California and Nevada, but for some reason, Washington, Oregon, Yellowstone, it doesn't come in. So maybe it's an independent network out here that fails to produce the smaller quakes that are happening on the weekend. Yellowstone, nothing showing up there for now, but let's just double check, see what we have here on this. Actually, it's quite beautiful out here right now. I got 65 degrees. I know I'm a weather guy, but we just had a bunch of rain last night, another half an inch of rain here in Northern California. And the sun's shining. It's kind of warming up out there. It's going to make everything super lush and green. I love it. And we're drying out for a couple weeks as we head into 2025. We'll cover that here in a minute. Wind. A lot of wind out, not in my neck of the woods, but out in Yellowstone it looks like. That's going to be some wind events. And I'll show you guys real quick what I mean, because I watch these maps quite a bit. And the environmental noise out there can stir up some of these seismograph stations that are exposed to the elements across some of these regions. So we have gusts locally. They're just on the eastern side of the park, 50 miles per hour. Across some of these other seismograph stations, 40 miles an hour. So it's happening here in the last few hours. That's why that line is thick like that. That's the wind being picked up on the seismograph stations. And it had it this time yesterday as well. But as far as earthquake activity, maybe a spike or two, but those are very small earthquakes that are probably too small to even mention there on the map. The rest of the country out here, oil fields calming down a little bit. A couple more earthquakes out here across the northeast, including a 3.7 way up into Canada early this morning, about 6 miles deep here for that three-pointer. Prior to that, a couple hours prior to that, 2.9 near Hicksville, Ohio, right close to the Indiana-Ohio line. Not too often do we see earthquake activity, but periodically it does take place out here across this area of the country. Not a lot, but there is some hotspot zones out there, and it is technically seismically active and has historically seen some large events, such as the New Madrid seismic zone down in the Carolina area as well. Some big time, moderately big movement up around New York as well historically. Nothing in recent times, because that would probably not be good, but eventually it's probably going to happen again. It takes a little while for strain to build up here across these areas, these intraplate fault systems. Let's see what else we got here across the world. What do we got? New earthquake out here in the Caspian Sea, it looks like, underneath there, 4.4. A little odd. Yeah, it's one of the newer quakes, and I haven't really seen anything directly underneath there, but I suppose it's possible. Nothing big. Let's see what we got for historical data in that region. Oh yeah, looks like actually looks like they've had a number of historical earthquakes here. Looks like around that fault system that runs directly underneath this area. You can see it clear as day, blue clear sky day right here. So that does happen on occasion, it looks like. A little bit of movement outside of that area as well, mainly from, let's zoom in here a little bit and see what we have. A lot of that from yesterday, a couple from today, Afghanistan, some more down in Ethiopia that I showed you guys. Aside from that, a lot of this from yesterday, some older movement. as the rings indicate here, older red activity. Man, that's just a cluster of quakes down there. If I had tons of money and a private jet, I'd fly down there and see what's going on there across that rift boundary, because something's brewing. Handful of quakes there across eastern Afghanistan, it looks like, and some further movement across the Taiwan area with a pair of quite a few fours out there. That is expected following all the large-scale activity we've seen here in the last few days along the western area of the Pacific Plate. That pushing up against this region, adding to the strain. And, yeah, nothing big. Couple fours out there from early this morning up to recent. Nothing happening there in the Kumano Ridge. This is the area that got put a megaquake warning alert for by the Japanese meteorological agency there in the last few months because of elevated activity south here. They feel like this subduction zone is about ready to produce another megaquake because it's coming up on the regular time frame of intervals, right? Most subduction zones and any type of boundary out here has regular occurrence of intervals that, they go up and down in terms of years, but there's the average, and it's coming up on that time frame here for that Kumano Ridge that can produce a mid-8, possibly higher. Coral-Kamchatka Trench, pretty quiet right now. Alaska area, typical is normal. Nothing big, only a handful of earthquakes there across the Aleutian Trench. The Big Island of Hawaii, excuse me, let's go check this out real quick, see what we got going on here. As far as I know, excuse me, let's check out the summit cams here real quick. Still producing some volume of magma out there. Now, I know overnight is a little bit more of a fountaining type of deal with periodic fountaining, but yeah, that's still active out there. They do have a webcam there on YouTube. This is just a little area up against the rim of Lava Lake there at Kilauea Volcano that's continuing to see that little event. Obviously, it looks like there's a good amount of volume of magma underneath this area. So as long as it's got a little vent here to relieve some stress from underneath, it should continue for a little while. This update was put out this morning. The eruption there at Kilauea Volcano that began back in December 23rd here continues this morning. There was a couple pauses there between these eruptions. The vigor of lava fountaining increasing over the past day. Eruptive activity has been confined to the crater and the down-dropped block within the caldera. No unusual activity has been noted across Kilauea's East Rift Zone or the Southwest Rift Zone for now. There's their live stream there on YouTube. So yeah, I mean, it's probably just going to continue. If there's no elevated activity elsewhere, then we'll just see this probably continue for a little while to deplete the volume of magma that's underneath this region. The deformation data here shows us going down following the most recent event there. There's a couple of the eruptions back on the 23rd as noted. There was a pause, and then there was another short-lived eruption there on the 24th or 25th. Paused, and then it came back up in terms of inflation. Now we're coming back down here, and that's this reading right here following the most recent fountaining and filling of the lava lake there at Kilauea Volcano. So we'll continue to watch that, but nothing major going on there for now. Just a little bit of activity at the world's most active volcano there, Kilauea Volcano. Mauna Loa, one earthquake. That's a very shallow earthquake there, but nothing else going on, it looks like, for now. Let's see here. Anything else going on across the seismos? They look pretty quiet. We'll check out some close approach asteroids here, see if there's anything going on. The wind's starting to pick up outside now. I don't know if you can hear it with this microphone here because it's kind of a one of the noise canceling microphones. It's actually the Shure. Someone asked me what microphone I use, and I use the it's actually pretty hefty and fancy microphone. It's the Shure SM7DB microphone that a lot of the professionals use. I've had it on the channel for about 8 months now, I think, and it seems to do the job pretty good. But somebody asked me which microphone I use here for the updates and on the channel, so I figured I'd answer that. Close approach asteroids here. Nothing major. I guess 161,000 miles for a fairly small car size asteroid, a 13-foot car. It depends on what kind of. That's very subjective there, right? Because there's bigger and there's smaller. But yeah, that's about the closest one right now. Nothing of any major interest out there for the time being. And again, we'll watch for this G3 class storm here tomorrow night. The peak of it will be about 11 p.m. It looks like, according to the models on that forecast, 11 p.m. Pacific time. But we should have some coming in prior to that. So just any time, maybe after dark, we'll keep our eyes on the northern sky there. See what we can see. Aside from that, folks, seismograph stations is up. A quick look here at the Space Weather or Storm Prediction Center. I want to show you guys yesterday's storm reports. Goodness, what a bunch of tornadoes out there. 44 tornado reports. I would say that's a pretty decent tornado outbreak out there yesterday. I've seen a lot of people saying, oh, it wasn't that big of a deal. That's subjective, right? That word, it wasn't big of a deal. But when the reports come in here like that, that's a pretty hefty amount. 44 reports there. 250 wind reports. So we got some hail in there as well. So pretty big deal. You know, it's a lot of it in Texas, Arkansas, some in Arkansas, I should say, Louisiana, and across that area that was forecasted. They forecasted that. It's underneath a moderate risk, and, you know, I'm glad they put out that warning. People need to definitely take heed when the warnings get put out there. Today, a different story. All that weather has shifted way up to the northeast, it looks like here. That's a quick mover. Far as any tornado threats today, it looks like a 2% there across Ohio, mainly. Wind, and that's about it. So not that big of a deal in terms of severe weather today that's associated with that low pressure system. Northern California, it's not like that right now. We're past that. We got blue, clear sky. And it looks like our next shot of rain, well, for us here in the valley, might be, wow, next week sometime, if that. The patterns start to change out here. We're noticing a more of a ridging out here across the west coast. It looks like they put that high pressure more right around California, which is not cool. So that's going to allow the jet stream from way up north to dive down here on that backside here of the, or the front side of the high pressure. That's a lot of cold air coming down here. Check out these thermodynamic temperature anomalies here. We're talking about 30 degrees, not below zero, but this is 30-degree departure from average. So if your temperature average runs about 60 degrees there for the afternoon high, you're going to see about 30 degrees, right? That's a lot of cold air, and it's not just one area. It's covering pretty much east of the Rockies there, and it puts California out here in the high and dry area, including the Pacific Northwest with warmer than average temperatures expected. I mean, we've had a lot of rain here in Northern California, so a little bit of sunshine, a little bit of a greenery, and I'll take advantage of it. I'll appreciate it, but I do want more rain. I'm not ready for 110 degrees out here in California where it gets like that every summer. And it stays like that way for 3 months. You know, I don't like it, but I'm stuck here for now. I can't really do anything about it. So a lot of cold air coming in, folks. And we'll put this into motion here. You can pretty much watch the pattern change here begin around the 1st of the new year. Just a lot of cold air dipping down in. And, man, these guys are normally cold to begin with up here across the northern plains. So these guys are looking at 30 degrees below their average temperatures up there, and then that cold air dips down further. That's a massive amount of cold air. Hoping that changes. It looks like it may. Low pressure off the coast of Southern California as we enter into the middle of January. We'll watch that and, of course, report back on anything. But clear, drier weather here for California for the next couple weeks. Cold spell coming in for 2025 across a good portion of the country east of the Rockies there. All right, folks, I'm out of here. Live stream is up and running. The seismograph station's out there. I was going to say quiet, but that one just popped up there on Petrolia, Northern California. Little small earthquake. These little ones, are they reporting it? I'll be darned. I'll be darned there. 1306, so that's just in the last 3 minutes. That would match the that earthquake coming in to the Petrolia station, the 2.7. Barely showing up there on the Dinsmore station. That's weird. Sometimes they'll report it, sometimes they're not. I think it's when I'm watching, or we're watching. So we still have that elevated activity out here. Got to keep an eye on that with this broader scale, noticeable increase in movement out here. Still got all the strain here against the western area of Nevada. A lot going on out here, folks. Be on guard. Still got a couple, we got 2 days left, right? Will 2024 end in a big earthquake, kind of like it began? We'll see. Either way, we got auroras coming in tomorrow night, and we'll test that theory of elevated earthquake activity following the arrival of a strong solar storm. It's been more nay than yay in recent times, but we have seen historically in the past when big-time solar storms come in, elevated earthquake activity happens. Not all the time, but it seems to be. There's definitely some type of relation, but it's not all the time. So it's weird, but we'll find out tomorrow. See what happens here in the coming days. Have a good one, folks. Live stream's up and running. We'll catch you guys back out here a little bit later on this evening. I'm going to go outside and enjoy a little bit of sunshine. Take care.